All right, boys and girls, today we are going to talk about inches and centimeters. So here we have a ruler. We've all seen a ruler before. We know it measures the length of something, and length is how long something it is. It can also measure the width, which is how wide something is, and the height, which is how tall something is. On a ruler, the two ways that you can measure are in inches, which are the ones that have the bigger spaces between the numbers, inches, and then on the other side of your ruler, where it's smaller spaces between the numbers, you measure in centimeters. Okay, so I'm just going to show you real quick how to use your ruler, and then we will go from there. So when you are measuring something, you always want to start from the end of your ruler. You don't start from 1 because if you start from 1, your lengths will be incorrect. And by the end of the ruler, I mean the very first tab that you have, the first of these little hashes on your ruler, and we'll talk about those in a minute. So you want to start at the very, very end of your ruler at that first little hash. And so for instance, if I wanted to measure this cube, okay, here's my cube. I'm going to put it right up against that very first hash, okay, and I'm going to zoom in nice and close so you can see this. So I started at that very first hash, and I'm going to measure how long my cube is. Now, I did this with your rulers in class yesterday, but let me do it to mine. I went through and we marked that ½ inch because we're going to be talking about measuring to the inch and to the ½ inch. So there's that ½ inch nice and black for you so that you can see it. Now, let me go back to putting it at that very first hash. Which one would you say that the cube is closer to, the half or the inch? I think just barely that it would be closer to the inch. So for our estimating purposes of our first experience with our ruler, I would say that this cube is about 1 inch long. Now, if I wanted to write that on my paper, okay, here's my paper. I'm going to put that up here. Our cube is equal to 1 inch. Okay, so this is a number 1. I'll make it obvious. 1 inch. So when you write inches, all you write at the end is IN. So let's try with another one, okay? Let's do this pen, okay? Again, you go from the very end of your object and start at that very first tab, okay? I'll zoom in nice and close on this one too to the end of my pen so that you can see. Okay, so here's my pen. You can't see it, but I promise you I've got it to the very first tab on there. Okay, let me mark my ½ inch so that it's very obvious on here. All right, so there's my ½ inch. Okay, so now that we look at the end of our pen, we know it's past the 5, so it's going to be 5 inches. And I would say that that's closer to the ½ inch than going up to 6 inches. Okay, so we will call this pen, again, I'll write it at the top of my paper with my cube. Okay, here's where I have the cube. My pen is equal to the 5 that it went past, and then it was a ½ inch. So 5 1/2 inches. We've talked about those fractions, so we know how to write 1/2. Okay, so that's how you use the inches side. The centimeter side is almost exactly the same. It's got the little ½ centimeters in there for you already. You can see it here, and you can see it here. And I'll just leave those there, okay? Centimeters are smaller than inches, so that's why they're closer together. So if I go back and I measure my cube again, I start at that very first hash mark again, just like I did for my inches. Now this one's actually pretty obvious of how long it is. It stops right at that 2. So up here with my cube, next to my 1 inch, it is also equal to 2 centimeters. cm, centimeters. That's how you write centimeters when you're writing it on your paper for the abbreviation. Okay, so the cube is about 1 inch and it is also 2 centimeters. Let's go back to our pen. Okay, again, starting at that very first hash mark on your ruler. Okay, let me move my paper over here for you. Okay, now here's my half for where my pen is closest to. All right, so it's past the 14. Would you think it would be 14 or 14 and a half? I think it's 14 and a half, don't you? So when I go back to my paper, it's 5.5 inches. It is also equal to 14 1/2 cm, centimeters. Okay, so what I would like for you to do with your rulers that you have taken home with you, you all have your notebooks, okay? And we are going to set them up just like I have them here. Let me zoom out so that you can see the whole page. Okay, I talked with you guys about this in class yesterday. So at the top of your paper, this lesson on measuring stuff with our ruler in inches and centimeters is lesson 1. So at the very top of your paper right now, I want you to put lesson 1. Today's date is actually 3/31. I wrote this yesterday in class when I showed you. So in the top corner, I want you to make sure that you have 3/31/15 up there, okay? Here's why I showed you, putting your numbers on the sides of your paper, okay, and using as much space as you need to answer these 4 questions, okay? So I'm going to turn to my next page, and that will be where your 4 questions go, okay? Your first question, again, we've got lesson 1. It is 3/31/15, okay? Your first question, I want you to measure in inches and centimeters a fork. Okay, so you're going to measure a fork. So you'll have your fork is equal to blank inches and also equal to blank centimeters. Okay, number 2, I want you to measure, again, in inches and centimeters. Let's do a book. Any book you want to use, okay? So again, you'll have your book is equal to blank inches and also equal to blank centimeters. Okay? Your last 2 questions, question 3 and question 4. I just want you to pick something else in your house that you can measure, okay? Anything. Just make sure you write it exactly how we have the book and we have the fork. Okay, so whatever it is, you put that word. If you were measuring the remote control, you'd write remote control. If you were measuring your dog, you'd write dog, okay? I don't know that I would recommend that. I think your dog wouldn't like that very much. But then you will put equals however many inches you find it to be and however many centimeters it needs to be. Try to keep it under 12 inches, okay? Your ruler only measures to 12 inches, so try to find something that isn't any longer than 12 inches. We'll talk about longer than 12 inches in the next lesson, okay? So, again, tomorrow you are bringing me back this notebook that is looking just like mine with your answers to how long a fork is, how long any book of your choice is, and then how long 2 other things are, okay? Again, if you were measuring your dog, like I said, which probably wouldn't be a good idea, you would put dog is equal to blank inches and also equal to blank centimeters. Okay? Use your ruler wisely. We have marked the 1/2 inch and the inch on all of them, just like I did here, especially at my 5. Okay, here's my 1/2 inch. And estimate. Take your best guess to whether it's at the inch or the 1/2 inch. Okay? Good luck, and I will see you tomorrow.